But ever wondered what supplies us with power? The Philippines is an archipelagic country. The Department of Education supplies the country with electricity to the three major grids: Luzon, Visayas, and Mindanao. The power of each grid, whether it is sufficient or not, relies on three things: grid capacity, peak demand, and ideal reserve. First is the grid capacity. It refers to the maximum power outputs of the generators attached to the electrical grid, meaning the maximum power it can offer the system. Second would be peak demand. Peak demand is the amount of capacity required during the single moment when the grid as a whole experiences the highest demand for power. Lastly would be ideal reserve. These are operating reserves before the grid goes into red alert status, which signals possibility of brownouts. It's like saving in a piggyback some energy. With all of that given, and these demand, how can I know if the grid can supply power sufficient or not? In order to do this, a dataset was obtained from the DOE which contains peak demand and grid capacity from 2003 to 2022. It was saved as a CSV file format and was subjected to machine learning through Weka using the data mining approach. The following data was obtained with the use of different classifiers. After all that data mining and machine learning, I have created an app to make things easier. With this application, you just have to input data and then it will actually predict whether the grid power is sufficient or not. Let us try. For example, you have the following data for peak demand, grid capacity, demand capacity difference, and ideal reserve. Let's try to classify whether it's sufficient or not. Yes, it is sufficient, meaning the grid power is enough with the following data. Let's try another one. What if we have the following values for peak demand, grid capacity, demand capacity difference, and ideal reserve? It is not sufficient, meaning the grid power is not enough given the following variables. So, with the use of the grid power sufficiency application, we can successfully predict whether the power is sufficient or not, with only the values of the peak demand, grid capacity, demand to capacity difference, or just the ideal reserve. All of this was done through data mining.